I walked into our bedroom and I saw my wife kissing her ex. How did she do this? I had been gone for 5 years. I had a secret then. I left as a poor man and I swore a blood oath to come back only when I could never be hurt. I lied to protect that promise, but she betrayed me first. The private jet had just landed on the rooftop and the elevator ride up felt long. She still thought I was the same poor man she had married. The kiss was soft. The room smelled of her perfume and old lies. I froze and my hand touched the doorframe. I felt my heart break and my head say, however, I will not lose control. I stood there with my secret money and a plan. She did not see me. I watched them, shocked, and I knew the penthouse rules would burn tonight. My name is Diego. I speak now from the balcony where the city lights make small stars. The elevator dinged and I stepped out in my suit. 5 years ago, I left with nothing. I promised my sister a better life. I promised myself a blood oath. I would return only when I was safe and strong. I called that promise my shield. I worked hard and I hid my success. I bought a private jet, a duplex in the high-rise, and the view. I kept the doorman smiling and the staff polite. I kept my wealth exclusive. I wanted to see her face when the truth came. I wanted her to feel the cold of regret. At first, our life was small and honest. We shared simple meals. She laughed at my small job. Then she said she wanted more. She wanted a better ring, a better view. I could not give those things then. She met an old friend. He was handsome and he had a car. I worked late shifts and he came with wine. I wanted to trust her. I told myself, she is lonely. I was wrong. Tonight I planned to tell her the truth. I would step out on the terrace and say, I own the company now. I would show the skyline and tell her I never forgot our oath. But the elevator came up faster because the jet had landed. A neighbor texted me, your jet arrived. I smiled and felt cold. I walked to our door. I heard voices. I pushed the door slowly. The scene hit me like a blow. She was kissing him on our bed. Her hands were in his hair. He called her a pet name I never heard. I felt my old life and my new power collide. I wanted to smash the glass on the balcony. I wanted to run. Instead, I stood silent. My chest burned with anger and hurt. I remembered the blood oath and it felt like a chain. I had sworn I would not break my silence until I was truly above pain. She did not know me. The man did not know I had money now. They talked about lies and plans. Her laughter became a blade. I needed proof. I took a photo very slow, careful. My hand did not shake. I wanted this moment to be clear. I wanted to test her. But the test in my mind changed to a plan of cold revenge. How do you punish a betrayal that started with a kiss? I stepped back into shadow and watched them more. A heavy footstep sounded in the hall. Someone was coming toward the door. I moved like a ghost through the penthouse. I closed the bedroom door softly. I walked to the kitchen and poured a glass of water. My mind worked in small sentences. I needed more. I needed a record. I needed a way to show the truth without losing my oath. I chose public exposure. The rooftop party would start in 1 hour. The city leaders, the press, and his family would come. I invited them all. I told my wife the party was a celebration for our new life. She smiled and put on her dress. She did not know I had invited his friends too. My doorman handed me the guest list. I checked the names and felt cold. I remembered the old nights when we had no view. She promised to be true. She promised the blood oath with me in the old cheap kitchen, and I believed her. She placed her hand on my chest and said, "Diego, always." I told her then I would return. She laughed. The memory burned now. The memory made my plan solid. This was the test. At the party, the penthouse would be full of lights. The terrace would glow, and the skyline would be behind us. I told the caterer to place the cake on the balcony table. I asked the host to bring the microphone. I scheduled the moment for when the city camera crew would film the skyline. I invited the ex too. I sent him a polite message, "Come and celebrate the new life." He answered with a thumbs up. My wife came down in a red dress. She looked beautiful and proud. She had a new perfume and a new story. She greeted the guests like a queen. People took photos on the duplex stairs. I stood by the elevator and waited. My heart beat slow. The ex arrived with a friend and they laughed loudly. They hugged friends. I felt the whole room watch me, but I kept my face calm. The cliff between my past and their future hung in the air. Then I stood up and took the microphone. My voice was small but clear. "Thank you for coming. Tonight we celebrate a life that begins again." The crowd cheered. I told a short story about 2 poor young people and an oath. I looked at her and I saw the old ring on her finger. I said, "This ring meant a promise." She smiled. I lifted a glass and said, "I have news." The cameraman moved closer. The door behind me opened and someone whispered the name of the ex. He walked in with a smile. The ex looked at me and then at my wife. He did not know my secret yet. I had the photo in my phone. I pressed play and the room watched the video of the kiss. Gasps filled the air. Her face turned white. The ex's hand found his throat. My guests looked at her and at him. The music stopped. The skyline watched us in cold blue light. She moaned, "Diego." And then the lights blinked and the rooftop speaker went quiet. What I did next would break my oath or break them. The video stopped. The room was full of eyes and whispers. I watched her face. She touched her mouth and then she laughed, a small dry sound. The ex stepped toward me. He said, "Diego, is this a joke?" I felt the old anger rise. I had my power now. I could tear them apart with words, with money, with law. But the blood oath was inside me. It told me to wait until I was free of pain. I stepped toward the balcony and felt the cold wind. People took out phones. The photos spread in seconds. My name was on the lips of strangers. Her mother cried. Her friends turned away. I saw my sister near the terrace door. She looked at me with fear. She had warned me, "Do not hurt her. You will lose your soul." The memory of that blood oath came back hard. I breathed in slow and counted to 10. I had to choose. The choice was not about revenge alone. It was about the promise I made to the person who raised me, who needed us both. I walked to the center of the room. My voice was calm. I said, "I have one rule. I will not ruin a life for a moment. But I will not stay with lies." The ex laughed and shouted, "You hid your money and now you act like a saint?" People murmured. I pulled out a stack of envelopes. They were envelopes with checks. I had written each name a small note. The room fell silent. I said, "This penthouse is mine, but tonight I will give it away." Gasps. My wife looked like she would faint. Then she shouted, "No. Diego, you cannot do this. You are angry, not fair." She came to me and grabbed my arm. Her hand shook. The crowd saw the old pain and the new power. She said, "We made a blood oath. We had a promise to each other. You said we would not show our anger to the world." I felt the blood oath snake through my mind. I had sworn we would never trade pain for money. I had sworn to protect our names. Her eyes begged me to remember. In that second, something broke inside me. The image of her hand in the ex's hair rose again. I felt my oath break. I stepped back and said, "I will not break the law for revenge. I will break what I swore to you because you broke me first." My sister cried out. The guests were shocked by the raw honesty. I pulled out the last thing I had kept secret, a letter that named the truth of my wealth. I read it aloud. I told them I had left to build a safe life. I told them I had wanted to return as a man she would respect. I told them about the kiss I saw. I said the ex had to leave now. He laughed and left. My wife screamed my name and ran up the stairs. The crowd followed. The door closed and behind it she slammed a memory that would never open again. A car engine started below. Someone was coming up the drive, and I knew the name of the caller would change everything. I followed her to the duplex. The door was locked from the inside. She had packed a small bag. Her eyes were wet and hard. She said, "You promised me forever when you had nothing." I replied, "I promised to be better, not blind." Our voices were low and sharp. She had one confession. She had married me for comfort, but she loved someone else. I felt rage, but I also felt relief. The blood oath had broken. The roof of lies had fallen. I could have ruined her publicly. Instead, I chose to leave. Outside on the balcony, I gave her back the ring. I told her, "Take it. Keep your choices. I will take my life away from this lie." She begged, but my heart was steady. I walked to the elevator and down past the doorman and past the skyline view that had once been a dream of power. I called my sister and told her to buy the house I had brought for us. She cried and said, "You did the right thing." I boarded my private jet quietly that night. I left the penthouse and the city lights behind. The lesson I learned is sharp and simple. Money can hide pain, but it does not heal betrayal. Revenge may sound sweet, but it breaks the soul too. The blood oath we swore to protect our hearts was a promise to feel, not to punish. I kept my dignity. I kept my future. I left the public shame behind and I built a life away from lies. If you feel betrayed, do not burn your whole life for one moment. Choose truth and calm. Walk away if you must. In the end, my heart is not empty. It is wiser. I am free to make a better promise now, one that I can keep.